Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to read this book that is called The Crystal Castle by Lydia Digiulio, Bridget Digiulio. I hope you enjoy it. Once upon a time, on the bank of a winding stream, there lived a widow and her son, Orion. From their small white cottage, they looked across the stream to fields of flowers. One bright, sunny day, whilst Orion was tossing pebbles into the stream, he watched the fish leap upwards as if to catch. A golden pigeon sat on the branch of a slender willow tree, which seemed to call to him from the forbidden bank of the other side. Orion remembered that his mother had always warned him not to trust strangers, to never cross the stream or wander off too far from home. But he had never seen a golden pigeon before, and he could not imagine how it could possibly cause him any harm. With growing excitement, Orion crossed the stream as he wished to know where the beautiful bird would fly. Towards the dark forest they went deeper and deeper into the shade of huge trees. In the forest they came across a pond where the golden pigeon bathed and splashed in the water. Orion hid behind a large bush. As he reached to grab the bird, it flew high over the trees and out of sight. One of its golden feathers fell softly at Orion's feet. Orion blinked as a bright, glistening light caught his eye. The golden feather shimmered and sparkled in the sunlight. Picking it up, he carefully pushed the feather deep into his pocket for safekeeping. Orion continued to walk through the forest in search of the beautiful golden pigeon. Before long, it became cold. As night approached, Orion turned back and ran, forcing his way through the dense growth of bushes and surrounding trees. He came to the small pond again. Knowing that he was lost, he cried himself to sleep. As a new day dawned, Orion awoke to the sound of splashing. A golden fish suddenly popped up from the pond. Orion was most astonished when the golden fish spoke to him and said, "If you follow the path behind the pond, you will find the golden pigeon." Orion began to walk down the path, which never seemed to end. Feeling hungry and tired, he stopped to rest on a smooth boulder. Looking up, he spied a bright object in the distance. Orion followed the path towards the glittering light and beheld the magnificent sight of a crystal castle. The crystal castle was as big as a mountain, and it appeared to almost touch the sky. The castle glowed with all the colours of the rainbow, and there on its gate sat the golden pigeon. With his hunger not now forgotten, Orion raced eagerly towards the bird, but as soon as he had stepped through the gate, it slammed shut behind him, and there was a great silence. Unexpectedly, a beautiful fairy appeared before him. "Come with me," she whispered softly. Willingly, Orion happily followed the fairy. After all, she was so beautiful and gentle that he felt he had no reason to fear her. As the fairy led Orion inside the castle, he marvelled at the beauty that was all around him. Everything inside the castle, including the furniture, was made of crystal and sparkled with every colour of the rainbow. They approached a winding crystal staircase and went down. Orion noticed that the further down they went, the darker it became. He soon became frightened and decided to turn back, but the fairy grabbed his arm tightly, leaving him with no choice but to follow her. When they had finally reached the bottom of the staircase, Orion gasped as an ugly face appeared before him, not that of the beautiful fairy, but the face of an ugly old witch, grinding her iron teeth together in delight. To Orion's horror, she locked him in a dungeon beneath the castle. Through the crystal bars of the tiny cell, Orion watched the witch climb back up the stairs. The echo of her shrieking laughter filled the cell as her shadow faded into the darkness. Grabbing the bars of the cell, Orion screamed for help, but his mother could not hear him, nor could anybody else. He slid down to the ground in great despair. Orion was all alone. At that moment, Orion noticed two perfectly round eyes glaring at him through the darkness, watching his every move. Startled, Orion jerked backwards in alarm as the witch's black cat made its way towards him. The cat squeezed its body through the bars of the cell. Orion watched in amazement as the cat unexpectedly transformed into the golden pigeon. But the pigeon quickly changed itself back into the witch's cat. When the bars of the cell started to melt slightly, Orion realised that he had been tricked by the witch and her cat. He was terrified of the cat as it hissed at him and arched its back. Trembling with fear, Orion slowly backed away from the cat until he hit the wall and was completely cornered. Orion quickly thought of a plan that could save him, aware that the castle was made purely of ice. He remembered the golden feather that was still in his pocket. Looking up, he noticed a tiny window at the top of the cell. Orion held up the golden feather high above his head into the specks of light where it shimmered and gleamed brightly in the darkness. All of a sudden, the bars of the cell started to melt again. A pool of water soon began to form around his legs, growing deeper and deeper until his feet could no longer touch the bottom. Orion found that he was struggling to stay afloat in the middle of a giant puddle of water, which had now replaced the once magnificent crystal castle. Both the witch and her cat had vanished and were nowhere to be seen. Orion swam frantically back to the shore. Climbing onto the bank, dripping wet, he headed towards the forest, trembling. Orion ran for what seemed like an eternity, longing to be back at home again. Back through the dark forest he went, forcing his way through the dense growth of bushes and surrounding trees until finally Orion could run no further, and he fell to the ground in exhaustion. Shortly afterwards, Orion awoke to the sound of splashing. Looking up, his heart filled with joy when he saw the winding stream and their small white cottage in the distance. Stumbling all the way to the cottage, Orion ran into the safety of his mother's arms. He promised that he would never trust strangers or wander off too far from home ever again. The end. If you want to get this book for yourself, you can find it here. Lots of love. Enjoy reading with me.